Welcome to another video. In this video, my opponent opened up with d4 and I replied back with d5. And my opponent developed their knight and I developed my knight. Now he attacks my knight, but it's not pinned because obviously the pawn is in between the knight and the queen. Now I develop my bishop, he takes my knight and I take back. And see there, I was wondering why would you want to lose a bishop so soon, but let's just see how it turns out for my opponent. He plays knight to f3 and I play knight to c6 and then he plays knight to h4. I pressed that really quickly so it was like a crazy jump, but yeah. So it was f3, c6 and h4. Now he's attacking my bishop. I bring my bishop back because if he takes, I get to open up my rook. He develops his pawn. I develop my pawn further. Obviously the pawn that did end up taking the bishop after it took my knight. He develops his bishop and I take the free knight. He now attacks my queen. I bring my queen to h3. He develops his queen, and I castle, and he castles. And then now I bring my queen back to offer a trade because if he takes, my bishop will have tempo by attacking his rook. He takes, and now he has to move his rook, which he does. And now I develop this pawn in because I'm planning on either fianchettoing my bishop. By him pushing that pawn because he was trying to trap my bishop, and now I attack his rook, he's gonna have to move that rook again. And then now I actually pin his knight to the rook. He attacks my bishop, and I take damage in his pawn structure. And then now I bring my rook to the e file because if I take the pawn on d4, he cannot take, otherwise he'd lose his rook. He brings his bishop back, I take, and he takes. Now I develop the pawn on a6 to a6. He attacks my pawn. I take because that pawn there was already weird because it was already on F file doubled up. He takes, and then now I offer a trade again where he takes and I take, and then he takes with the rook and I take with the pawn. I'm just up 3 points of material, so I'm willing to trade. He retreats with his rook. I bring my rook behind his pawn because I'm going to try and advance it as much as possible. Just to have a pass pawn. It's like a pawn in my opponent's side. And then now I'm just maneuvering my pieces around. I'm putting him in check. I'm winning pawns. I'm developing my king forward. Get my king active. And now my whole goal is just simply, since I'm up material, just trade everything. And now I've got a knight. I can use this knight to just eat up all the pawns, which my opponent lets me do. And he's just so focused on developing that pawn on the F file that he doesn't realize that I've just eaten. Well, he does obviously realize I've eaten everything, but he just quits here because obviously what he was doing didn't really make much sense, and it was an easy victory.